Hello and welcome to Treasury Notes, a financial education program from the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office. I'm your host, Gina Joins. Businesses of all types are required by state law to report unclaimed property to the State Treasurer's Office every year. Most of this property is in the form of money from places like bank accounts, insurance annuities, utility deposits, or sale-dated checks. But the Treasurer's Office does receive a small amount of tangible property. Most of it is personal property from safe deposit boxes. Coming up later in today's show, we'll talk with a member of the Treasurer's Unclaimed Property staff who is responsible for these items and find out how you may be able to take some of it home with you. But first, let's talk about another Treasurer's Office program, the Smart 529. Smart 529 is West Virginia's official college savings plan and is administered by the Hartford Financial Services Group. And joining us today to talk more about this is a representative of the Hartford, Jorn Otte. Jorn, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
And this is your first time as a guest on Treasury Notes, so we want to welcome you into the Treasury Notes family, and we hope to have you on many times during your tenure here with us. But let's just start by talking a little bit about yourself and your role with the Hartford and how it equates to the Smart 529 program.
Certainly. First of all, I am a native West Virginian, live and work in Beckley. And my role with Hartford is essentially to go around the state of West Virginia and meet with as many individuals, schools, businesses, community groups, everybody that I have the opportunity to speak with to share the message about Smart 529 and saving for an educational future.
And Smart 529 encompasses a lot when you talk about saving for college. You go to a lot of different events, school events, there are contests. The State Fair of West Virginia is always a big place to talk about the Smart 529. Why do you go to these events, and why is it so important that the Smart 529 program is represented at these fairs and festivals and other different types of events?
Certainly. I think for me personally, I want to get the message out to as many people as I can about saving for college, and so being able to meet with people one-on-one at these events, being able to discuss the various ways that they can save for their children's or grandchildren's educational future is great, because when they get to see me and get to interact with me, they understand that there's a human face behind what it is that the Hartford does.
Yeah, and you say you're a Beckley native, so this is something that I'm sure you're passionate about.
Absolutely.
To be able to make sure that other West Virginians will be able to send their children to some type of higher education.
Absolutely. I want the best and brightest in West Virginia to have every opportunity they can to achieve their educational dreams.
And you know, we talk about the Smart 529 College Savings Program, but earlier we were talking a little bit about the fact that it's not just about college.
Right.
There are all different types of higher education. There's trade schools, there's vocational schools, and Smart 529 savings can go a long way for that type of schooling as well.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because a lot of people aren't aware. You know, it is called the 529 College Savings Plan for good reason, because most people do end up using some of those funds to go to a higher education institution like a college or university. But I think part of the reason is that a lot of people are not aware they can use the funds for vocational education or training of some type. You can use it to become a welder, to get an electrician's certification, nurses training. Sure. Any number of professional opportunities are out there for people, and these are, you know, well-paying jobs that a lot of West Virginians want and need. So being able to use these funds for vocational or technical training is very important to get that message out.
So why should parents consider a Smart 529? I mean, you're kind of talking about it right now.
Right.
It's important that people start thinking about it.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, around the nation, the cost of higher education, no matter what field it might be in, continues to go up. There's no indication that that's ever going to stop. So the earlier people can save money for a higher education of any kind, the better. And you know, every dollar that you're able to set aside in a Smart 529 plan is money that your child or yourself or your grandchildren don't have to pay back later in the form of student loans. So this is a great way to make sure that your costs are reduced later on in life.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought up about starting at a young age, starting as early as possible, because right now the Smart 529, there's never been a better time to enter it at an early age, because there's the Bright Babies program. Can you explain to us what the Bright Babies program is, how it works, and how people, new families out there can take advantage of this?
This is a wonderful program that I'm very proud that the state of West Virginia offers, because what it is that that anytime somebody has a new child born in the state of West Virginia, they can receive $100 towards a Smart 529 plan from the state of West Virginia, absolutely free, just for signing up for an account. So as soon as they establish that account, so long as they provide information that shows that this child was born within the last year, they can receive that $100 from the state of West Virginia. In addition to that, one of the nice benefits of the Bright Babies program is that it also works for adopted children. Anybody who adopts a child in the state of West Virginia within the first year of that adoption, they also can receive that free $100 towards their Smart 529 account. So it's a great way to make sure that people are starting to save as early as possible.
Yeah, and the way we tell people is before their first birthday, just sign them up for the 529,
right,
and $100 will be deposited in your account. The Hartford makes sure that happens,
Absolutely.
and it's a great program for people to take advantage of. Many people don't always think about saving for higher. I mean, you have this little baby, you have this toddler. You don't
Right.
think about saving for college. There, that's farther down the road,
Sure.
right? But it's not. It comes on quickly. Those children grow up quickly. Many families don't realize that they should start saving at that really early age. And,
Right.
and what is your thoughts on how to change that perspective and how to just give them some advice on why now is a good time?
Well, I think just like any savings, when people think about saving for retirement, they recognize that that is something that is further down the road that they need to begin saving for now. In the same way, college or vocational school, whatever it might be, may be 15 or 16 or 18 years down the road, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't begin saving now. And even $25 a month can make a huge difference the earlier you begin. You can, save several $1,000s in education savings if you begin, particularly in that first year of a child's life.
And there's a lot of help out there for you. There's a lot of tools to take advantage of.
Absolutely.
I think when people think about investing, sometimes it can be a very daunting task,
Certainly.
but it doesn't have to be with a 529. A lot of the decisions can be made very easily if you enter this program.
Yeah, and thankfully the smart529.com website gives a lot of information about how people can do this. But if you prefer to work through a financial advisor, if you meet me at one of these events, I'm happy to walk you through the process. It's actually extremely easy to begin an account. And then in terms of managing the account, the Hartford Funds manages the investment portfolio, and people can choose different types of investment portfolios depending on how old their child is when they sign up, how much they're willing to invest, that sort of thing. So there are plenty of options for people to choose from. The website, smart529.com, does a great job of explaining some of those different options, and then, hopefully I'll get the chance to meet with them and explain them as well.
And there are automatic savings options as well.
Absolutely.
You can just set it and forget it. If you're one of those people, you can have it taken right out of your check or your bank account, right?
I'm glad you mentioned that too, because in addition to doing automatic savings through a bank account or checking account, a lot of people are not aware that you can actually save for Smart 529 through a payroll deduction. And one of the things I want to make sure I get the message out to employers in West Virginia is that they can offer a college savings account to their employees at absolutely no cost to the company, and it's done through a payroll deduction where, just like your deduction for your retirement account or your health insurance, it's taken out of your paycheck and goes directly into your Smart 529 account, so you don't have to worry about, it's out of sight, out of mind. You're going to make sure you have a savings for your children and not have to worry about it. So
Yeah.
through payroll is another excellent option for people.
Absolutely. I'm sitting here with Jorn Otte with the Hartford, works on the state's Smart 529 college savings program. Of course, that's through the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office. And that's why we're here on Treasury Notes talking about it. John Purdue has gone a long way with this program, started
Certainly.
it, and has grown it into a $2.6 billion program, I think it is right now. It's a great way for parents to start saving for their children at a young age, and we've talked about that quite
Yes.
a bit. But what about if you have an older child? What if your child's 12, 13? Is it too late to start saving?
That's a great question, and it's never too late to start saving. I mean, even if you have somebody, like, for example, I have a 17-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. My daughter is getting ready to go into college here in about a year, and we've been talking about her different options and whatnot. Thankfully, her mother and I did sign up for Smart 529 plans several years ago, so we were thinking ahead even before I became a member of the Hartford family. But, even if you have a child who is in high school, every dollar that you can set aside now, for one, you get the tax savings of having a Smart 529 plan. Secondly, it is money that you're not going to have to pay back later on. Maybe you're only able to save $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 over the next couple of years. That can be the difference in paying for books throughout your entire college career. That can be perhaps even one semester of tuition or even one semester of room and board. So it's literally never too late. Of course, we want people to sign up as early as they can, because the longer you can invest for your child's education, the more money you're going to be able to save. But I would even speak to people who have juniors and seniors in high school about saving for their child's education.
And we touch on the fact that it's not just about saving for college or a four-year traditional institution. There are all different types of different higher education that you can take advantage of and use Smart 529 money that was saved up. But why is it important that parents start talking to their kids about higher education right now? Why do you think it's important that they start having this conversation and maybe work the fact that they're saving for their child's education into the nightly talk when we're sitting down at the dinner table?
Studies have shown that children who know their parents are saving for their future education actually do better in school, because they believe there's a higher expectation for them to achieve these goals that their parents will have for them. So, if people can talk about a future in education for their children, whatever that education might be, college, vocational, technical, any kind of training, children are going to respond to that, and they're going to want to achieve for the fact that their parents are already preparing for their future.
And we want our audience to know that if you know about the Smart 529, make sure your friends know about the Smart 529. When your friend has a baby, or the family down the street is welcoming a new one, make sure they know to invest in this program, because first of all, if they invest before the child's first birthday, they're going to get that $100 now through the Bright Babies program. We also have a lot of different contests through the Smart 529, like the When I Grow Up essay contest, which is an annual event that has great participation every year. Can you talk a little bit more about just the fact that there's a lot out there to take advantage of?
Certainly there really are, and I want to encourage people particularly to think about when they're wanting to give a gift to a child for a birthday or for Christmas or whatever. Obviously, kids love toys and games and whatnot, and we don't want to stop people giving those. But if you can maybe set aside $25 or $50 to give as a gift toward their college education, that's something you can do as well. Anybody can contribute to a child's Smart 529 plan. We have a lot of grandparents that open up the Smart 529 plans for their grandchildren, but aunts, uncles, friends of the family, anybody can make a tax-exempt contribution to those plans. And you mentioned the When I Grow Up plan, which is getting ready to celebrate its 10-year anniversary, which I think is wonderful. A lot of people have learned about the college savings plan simply just from participating in that essay contest. And we hope to expand that essay contest this year and get many more students in the state of West Virginia participating.
Why is it so important that the Smart 529 program is out there talking about college savings, talking about higher education, talking about these programs that people can take advantage of? I mean, I think it's a good opportunity for West Virginians.
I do, and I think the more that people know about these plans, the more likely they are to participate, the more likely they are to encourage their children to pursue a higher education. We have a very talented workforce in the state of West Virginia, and I want to see those people have the opportunity to stay here, to raise their families here, to really grow this state in all the different ways that it can be grown. So I hope that people will take advantage of Smart 529 with a vision towards it being good for their families, good for their communities, and good for the state.
Absolutely. And, I did want to talk a little bit, we talked about vocational school, college. Sure. There are different types of ways you can use 529 monies, but, a child may not want to attend college, so you think we don't need to save. That's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of reasons you can use this money, a lot of ways you can use this money, I should say, that you've saved up over the years.
Sure.
And just because you might not think your child is college material doesn't mean you should stop saving.
And, it's when a child is 1, 2, or 3 years old, we don't know what the future might hold, so it's always great to start a program that early. But if you don't think that college is in your child's future, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't start one of these plans, because vocational training could be in their future. There's plenty of jobs in the blue-collar workforce of West Virginia, if you will, that will have the opportunity for them to use those funds for training. But at the very least, at the absolute minimum, if the child does not pursue any form of higher education, you don't lose the money. I want to make sure everybody understands that. It's like any other investment. They still maintain control of those funds.
Well, and you can change the beneficiary.
Absolutely.
We haven't said that yet.
Absolutely. That's a good point.
If little Johnny doesn't use all his money, well, then little Susie, you can change the beneficiary, and maybe your next child or grandchild can take advantage of that money as well.
That's a very good point. I don't want anyone to think that they're going to lose those funds. They're theirs to use for their children or grandchildren, whoever they might need to use them for.
Jan, thanks so much for joining us today. Any final thoughts before we go?
Just thrilled to be here, glad to be part of the Hartford family. Wonderful to work with the State Treasurer's Office. They've been really receptive and wonderful to work with. So thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to pause for a quick break right now, but when we come back, we'll learn more about what happens when physical unclaimed property is turned over to the Treasurer's Unclaimed Property Division. Stay with us. We will be right back.
Babies are expensive. Formula, diapers, daycare. That's just the first year. Oh, wish you could start saving for college now? The Piggy Bank Fairy is granting wishes of college savings to new parents by contributing $100 when you open a Smart 529 account.
Enroll in West Virginia's Smart 529 Bright Babies program before your grandchild's first birthday or Gotcha Day, and Smart 529 will contribute $100 into your Smart 529 college savings account.
Wishes do come true. Register in the first year, so when they sit up, it's time to sign up.
To learn about Smart 529, its investment objectives, risks, and costs, read the official statement available from smart529.com. Check with your home state to learn if it offers tax or other benefits for investing in its own 529 plan.
Welcome back to Treasury Notes. I'm your host, Gina Joins. Joining me now is Diane Billings. She is a safekeeping specialist for the Unclaimed Property Division at the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office. Diane, thank you so much for taking some time to sit down with us today and talk a little bit about what you do and explain to us just what a receipt specialist is for unclaimed property and what that entails, because a lot of people, I'm sure in West Virginia, they hear about unclaimed property, they hear about the program, they say, do I have any unclaimed property? But they don't know what it means to receive this stuff into the state and where all this stuff comes from.
A receipt specialist actually works with the businesses and receives the reports where they're required by law to report each year. And a safekeeping specialist primarily works with the banks, and we do the tangible items, which is the safe deposit boxes.
So it's a little bit of a different role between the two roles, and you primarily deal with the safe deposit box items, is that correct?
That is correct.
So talk about what that means. I mean, really, when you talk about unclaimed monies that come to State Treasurer John Purdue's office, most of it is undeposited checks, and a lot of it is money, and that's what we're typically talking about, not physical property. We're never talking about real estate, although some people think we talk about real estate, but when we talk about the actual physical property, it's those things that end up in safe deposit boxes and then they go dormant for a while and it ends up in your hands.
That is correct, and it is the same laws as if the banks, the other accounts that they have. The safe deposit box accounts are treated the same way. When it's dormant for 5 years and the bank has had no contact with the customer, they're required to turn it over so that we can advertise it.
I love talking about this because it's so much fun. The things that I'm sure you come across as you're going through some of these items just are remarkable, I'm sure.
It is. Interesting, funny, sad. I mean, a whole range of things. So yes, I think we have the most fun job at the Treasurer's Office.
How much of this type of unclaimed property does a Treasurer's Office usually receive?
Last year, we had around 250 safe deposit boxes recorded on reports, and some of those would have just a few items. Some may be so full that the same person would have 2 or 3 boxes turned over. So I can say 250 reported, but that could mean hundreds and hundreds of items.
So what are we talking about? What do you come across? I mean, coins, jewelry.
Oh, yes, coins, and sometimes they come 500 coins at a time.
Wow.
Individual coins, but lots of coin sets, jewelry, and of course lots of documents and that sort of things also.
There's other things too. I know a lot of collectible stamps.
Stamps, yes. Sometimes flatware. Patterns, that are worth quite a lot of money. Jewelry, even some maybe little glass items from trips or overseas trips, that sort of thing. So,
what are some of the more unique things you've come across in these safe deposit boxes?
Probably the most recent thing last year was that we had a train schedule, a U.S. train schedule from the 1870s, and it was in good shape. You could, read where the trains were scheduled to go. That was very interesting, very unique. We've talked about this antique doll that has sort of been a favorite of everyone's because of how it was perceived. Some people loved it and the fact that it was from the 1920s, and some thought it was just a little scary looking.
Right.
So,
and some of the things that you find in these safe deposit boxes, I mentioned, collectibles have a lot of value to them. Some of them are just personal items, and I'm sure you've come across many personal items as well. Talk about that. What would you come across that's just a personal memento that maybe has no real value to anyone other than the owner?
A lot of cards with maybe coins taped to them, like you get when you're little, and
Sure.
a note to the grandson or great-grandson, that sort of thing. Jewelry, again, with notes saying this goes to some special person. So just
What about locks of hair? I'm sure that comes
lots
through.
of hair, baby teeth,
Right.
and yeah, I think even one set of dentures.
Oh, wow. And I know you mentioned a lot of legal documents. What happens to some of those documents when they come into your possession?
Because the things, the life insurance, wills, that sort of things, we catalog them, put them in our unclaimed property system, and we keep them, we retain them always so that they can be claimed, and they're claimed just like you would money or other safe deposit box items.
And I know a lot of times the treasurer's office can't keep all of these things, so we do hold auctions every so often. At the state fair every year, there are several auctions that happen live on the fairgrounds, which is always an exciting time. Talk about just the excitement that happens when there's a live auction going on.
That is a lot of fun. We have the things in the display case that's going to be sold at that evening. So there's lots of interest, people coming by, and the ones that are truly interested, they'll go look up online, the value of the things. And just the live auction is fun, and the people, even if they're not going to be participating, so enjoy the bidding and the excitement of it. So it's just been a whole lot of fun and a good way to let people know what we do and that they can participate online.
Yeah,
all
and
year
that's
long.
what I wanted to
Yes.
say. There are frequent online auctions as well, so people can typically go to see if there's an auction. It's not consistently, they go on and off, but they are frequent.
Yes, and that depends on how much things we have coming in and if they have been advertised and are available for auction. But it is on and off on a continual basis.
How often does the State Treasurer's Unclaimed Property Division keep items before it is sent to auction or put on an auction block?
Okay, it is generally at least a year, because when we receive it and confirm everything that the bank has said and put it in our system, we then advertise it, of course online, but also in the publications that go out. And then after it has been publicized for quite some time, if it isn't claimed, we do have to auction it just for the sake of space.
Sure.
On an ongoing basis.
And it's always nice to tell people that if an item, let's say your great-great-great-grandmother's rings were in this, if an item is sold at auction, the heirs or the owner of the property will always be eligible to receive that money that was
correct.
Brought in from the auction.
Right.
Correct?
After the time has expired and it goes to auction, the proceeds are then what they would be claiming, just the same as any other money.
And you talked about possibly a year or so before it would ever even see the auction block after it's been turned over to Treasurer John Purdue's office, but the banks keep it for some time too. So there's been a lapse of time here that there's been no contact with the owner.
Yes, the banks are required to keep it 5 years with no activity for 5 years. So it's not like we're just taking things and then selling them. So the banks, as part of their due diligence, are required to exhaust every effort to contact the owner or their heirs.
What are some of the advantages of having this online auction versus doing it live? I know we do a little bit of both, especially like I said, at the state fair every year. That's the big live auction or auctions. There are several every year. But then there's some advantages to doing it online as well.
One thing is that a lot of people can participate. You get a bigger audience, which drives the bids up usually. We have a company that is their sole job is electronic auctions, so they know how to advertise. They already have people coin collectors, jewelry collectors.
Frequent customers.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of advantages to it.
So kind of like an eBay, and it is important to note that the state treasurer's responsibility is to get the best value for those pieces for the owner.
That's correct.
To be held in perpetuity. So it is important that your office does get the best value for these pieces, and that's part of the advantage to doing an online auction
is
as well,
correct.
I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun though. I mean, it has to be neat getting to see some of these things, getting to experience some of these things. And as you mentioned, sometimes it's sad, I'm sure, as well.
It is when you're going through them, and because I would say that a large amount of the boxes are turned over because the person is deceased and no one knew they had a box. And so that is sad when you're going through that a little bit, but on the flip side of that, it's exciting to know we may be able to be the ones to help get that they might hit our website, whether they're living at that address anymore,
Right.
they might just be searching for unclaimed property and happen to see someone's name. So
And
we may,
I know it doesn't happen very often, but once in a while, it happens more frequently with money. But once in a while, we are able to give back those items in a safe deposit box. How does that make you feel when you see that someone's been reunited with their grandmother's ring or their grandfather's pocket watch? We get a lot of those too, I'm sure.
We do get that sort of thing, and it's a wonderful feeling. I mean, that is what we truly want to happen for someone, to get those items. So that is one of the perks of just being able to participate in being part of that.
Do you have any favorite part of what you do in the Unclaimed Property Division, and can you just talk about some of the fun things that you get to do?
I truly enjoy the whole process. I mean, even getting to work with the businesses, although it's required by law, and you think, ooh, to get them to know the reporting isn't that bad, and being able to help them so
Right.
that and get to know the ones that do that on a yearly basis and make them feel comfortable. And then when we, of course, going through the things are interesting and cataloging it and trying to give it detail, when we catalog, to give that detail, so if someone calls in to inquire about it, we have that. So, and then of course, like you said, being able to send it out to the person who's got to claim it, that's exciting.
Yeah, and of course, people, again, can go online to find out more about safe deposit box items, unclaimed property in general. Search. Maybe you have some stuff out there, wvtreasury.com.
Yes.
All the information's there. Also, information about the auctions. I don't think there's one going on currently, but frequently there are online auctions, so there's a link to that as well.
On the website, always, yes.
All right, Diane Billings, thank you so much for joining us here today. Always interesting to talk with you and to just see things through your eyes when you get to open up those safe deposit boxes. A lot of fun.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. And that's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can always get the latest news and information from the State Treasurer's Office. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and on our website again, keeping you informed on the Library Television Network. I'm Gina Joins with the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office.